All right. So, like the title says, I'm going to be reviewing this book. Fun little read. This is actually the first book I read, and the reason I read it is because it says this. I went into the only Games Workshop store I've ever been in. Only time, because the closest one to me is over an hour away. I was actually in DC. We were on our way home, and I said, "Oh, hey, let's stop at this Games Workshop store," because I had just gotten some start collecting stuff like 3 days prior. I actually brought, I think it was Flesh Eaters, to the hotel that we stayed at to do them while we watched one of the Marvel movies. Like, that's how recently I had gotten into the hobby, because I had gotten the 2 start collecting boxes that I owned at the time for my birthday from one of my friends. So we go to this store, right? And automatically, there's a couple dudes playing, there's a couple dudes hanging out. But the guy jumps on us. It's like, "Oh, hey, you guys want to play? You guys want to do this? You guys want to buy this?" And I was like, "Whoa, okay. Pull it back, dude. Like, I'm just here to check stuff out. I just got into the hobby. Sorry, I mess with my hair a lot. I need a haircut." But I felt bad going in and not buying anything. The guy was obviously like really trying to get people engaged. So, I was like, "Hey, I'll look into the books," because I like books. I love reading. I'm a huge reader. I read almost the entire Star Wars extended universe before Disney shot it in the head, which, thanks, I guess. But I went over, and they had this little section. It was like 3 feet of books, and a lot of it was 40K, and there's a little bit of Age of Sigmar. But some of it was like stuff that I didn't really understand, and none of it really pertained to Iron Jaws or Flesh Eaters. So I was like, But then I saw Sacrosanct and Other Stories, and I saw that it said start here, and I, flipped through it really quick, and I decided to grab it. Decided to pick it up, which I think was a really good idea on my part. It was cheap. I don't remember how much they charged. It was like $20 maybe. Oh no, not even. It was $8. $8 for that it's a pretty solid thing. It's pretty good. If that's like the first thing you buy from Games Workshop, it kind of sets a precedent that never ever gets lived up to, in that that's a reasonable price for something. Haha. But in it, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 stories in it, differing. Some of them lead into other stories. Some of them are just their kind of own little standalone. And I don't know, maybe they were supposed to go into something and they just never did. But what's interesting is that the ones that do lead into something are really good at that, I guess, is the way to say it. Like Sacrosanct, which is, the titular story, says it right there, is the longest. It's the first, like, quarter of the book. And it's pretty typical Stormcast story. Yeah, this is all Sacrosanct, which is this is all Sacrosanct, which is pretty big considering the rest of the book is 11. It's 11 stories in here, so I guess it's not like a quarter, but yeah. So anyway, it's a pretty typical Stormcast story, but it does follow the Sacrosanct Chamber, who are the newer guys. They go down to Gur, the realm of Gur, which is, I think, the realm of peace. There's a town. It's being haunted by a ghostly king, who I guess used to be the king of the area. Stormcast show up and do the Stormcast thing, in that they smash all the stuff that isn't Sigmar, or, normal human things, /elf, /sylvanet, /dwarf, Duardin. But anyway, they fight the ghosts. They follow the king guy back to his, like, tomb, ancient, crumbling palace thing. And there's a couple twists, a couple turns that go along. There's typical characterization of the Stormcast in that, oh, that guy's been reforged, and he's weird now, and that guy hasn't, and he's cool, and blah, blah, blah. But, it's interesting, to say the least. It was a little weird being one of the first books, because I was like, I don't know what in the hell they're talking about. What is this reforging? Why are Stormcast not dying? I don't get it, but it was a good read to lead up into Soul Wars, which I haven't read yet because I'm working through Realm Gate. Haven't read that yet, but I want to. It is interesting seeing things from the Nighthaunt side though, because like I think the book actually starts after like the whole Stormcast hanging out in his ear and then getting shot down. It goes into the Nighthaunt's king's viewpoint, and he's got some very interesting viewpoints and like ways of thinking. I think he might be a model, but I don't really remember. I can look that up, I guess, real quick, if I can find his name while I talk about while I talk about the book. So I thought it was interesting how they somehow, some way, keep putting these Stormcast into places where they've been. Because like the main Stormcast guy is important to the Ghost King when he was alive. Like when the Stormcast was a regular dude, he was important to the Ghost King, which I don't understand how he keeps doing this. Sigmar keeps putting them down in those areas. And I don't know if he's doing it on purpose to try and like jog their memory and bring them back to a normal life, I guess. But I don't know if it's the best idea for him, because it kind of seems to be messing with people. All it says here, nope, that is Lizard Man. Maybe not. I thought he was a model, but I guess I'm wrong. Whatever. He might just come back in Soul Wars. Anyway, so after Sacrosanct, you get a Dirge of Dust and Steel. Sacrosanct is written by C.L. Werner, who is a pretty typical name in Warhammer. So after that comes a Josh Reynolds book, and if you don't know C.L. Werner, you probably, definitely, maybe know Josh Reynolds. He's a pretty prolific author. He wrote a Dirge of Dust and Steel. It's another Stormcast book, which, you know, if you've done any amount of AOS stuff, Stormcast are the Mary Sues and the poster boys. So they don't continue it at any point in time with another book, as far as I know. I think it's just supposed to be like a one-shot that he did. So it's in Shyish, and it's cool because the group of Stormcast are there to help out this group of dwarves that like kind of revere death to a degree. Not to the point where they're like bad or like on Nagash's side, but to a point where like they're not afraid of dying, I guess. It's an odd thing. These dwarves are being attacked by Slaneshi cultists, and there is a unique keeper of secrets called the Soul Flayer. And the main Stormcast guy goes up against the Soul Flayer and like fights him and beats him and stuff. So that's cool. It's pretty typical. I want them to continue it because I want to see that dwarven society and culture flourish and like where it goes from there. And on the other side, I want to see if Slanesh if Slanesh coming back, because like it's kind of like in the middle of doing that. I want to see if that's going to further that story, maybe, but who knows. Anyway, there's not really that much to say about it. It's really short. It's like probably 15 pages, I think. But it's cool. It's interesting. After that one is Callus and Toll, The Old Ways by Nick Horth. This one is set in the realm of Gur again, because Sacrosanct is as well. And it's actually following / referencing the City of Secrets book, which is going to be a must-read for me, because it brings it back to kind of fantasy tones, with Tzeentchian cultists doing bad things, and then like apparently a Stormcast comes down and just starts straight murdering people because unclean. But I think it's cool. So speaking of Warhammer Fantasy vibes, following a witch hunter and an ex-Free Guild soldier turned witch hunter really evokes those vibes. You really get that feeling of like, oh hey, the world isn't really that much different from how it used to be. In that, you know, these witch hunters are roaming around, killing stuff and going after people, but there's kind of less witch hunters killing innocent people and more witch hunters finding horrific things they can't really fight, but still manage it in the book and in the universe. So that's kind of cool. Kind of drops the, not like coolness, but like the intrigue factor of the witch hunters. But I still think it's good nonetheless. It references City Secrets a couple times. That main Sigmar guy I mentioned who came down and started murking people, he's mentioned by name. The two guys, Callus and Toll, go to this marsh town that is apparently important. There's two rival families. One is mad at the other because their son was seen with the other guy's people and now he's missing. Basically, the two witch hunters go and try to find the son, and stuff goes wrong, I guess. And they pretty quickly got to fight something that's not fightable, not able to be fought after a certain degree. It gets pretty grimdark, which is, the Warhammer tagline, the Warhammer thing. So it's good. It's a good Warhammer book, in my opinion. I think it's good. And I like that it leads you into another Warhammer book about Callus and Tull, which I'm looking for. I forgot to write it down. So let me see. It is not that book because I'm reading the wrong one. After each book in here, after each novella / short in this book, they have like a little blurb and like a little splash page that says like, read this next. Callus and Toll, the Silver Shard. So in this one, they go after an artifact that can reshape reality. Sounds cool. Looks like it's set in the jungles, so maybe we'll see some Seraphon, maybe some Lizardmen. Pretty cool. I'm looking at the camera to make sure I'm not doing anything weird with my face. Sorry, as I do it more. So again, I think that's a good book. I think it's good for sending it back towards Warhammer Fantasy. And if you liked any of the books from there, grab that one. Grab Sacrosanct just for this book, or I think you can buy all of these separate for like $3. But I'd say just grab Sacrosanct. Dance of Skulls by David Annandale is after this one. It's a pretty short story. It centers around Neferata, who is one of Nagash's Mortarchs. I think I don't remember which Mortarch she is. I don't follow Death that bad, but she's a Mortarch. And it follows her foiling an assassination attempt on herself at a vampire ball, and it shows you the culture and the society surrounding vampires, which basically is the same as from Warhammer Fantasy, in that they think they're nobles and all this other stuff, and the peasants are just like cattle essentially. But it's interesting to see more subtle stuff still turn into classic Warhammer everybody dies type of stuff. And if I cared more about vampires in this game, and if I cared more about death and Nagash, I would definitely be more interested in this. If you do like those things and those factions, definitely pick this one up. Definitely read this one and read the continuing story, which is again about Neferata, and it is titled, I don't know if you're ready for this, Neferata. So that's cool. Good book. Solid. After that one is another C.L. Werner book titled Shipwraths. This one follows Caradhran overlords as they dock at a monastery that they've docked at before, and they get I think it's paintings or rugs or something, or weavings, and they sell for a lot. And they're like, don't actually tell them we're selling them because that's against their religion, but it's okay because we're just going to do that. And that's very Caradhran overlordy of them because they're supposed to be merchants, supposed to be all about the money. So I think that's cool. Then, bad stuff happens. Skaven are involved, so, bad stuff happens. But it's a solid little book. It shows you how the Skaven deal with the rest of the world that's not just, kill and eat people. Because if you remember from Warhammer Fantasy, they had a very interesting role in that they were not real, but obviously real. So if you're a fan of the Duardin, Caradhran Overlords, and Skaven, this is a good little short for you. And it leads you up into another Caradhran Overlords book, just titled Overlords of the Iron Dragon, which from the blurb and the little cover art thing that it gives me, looks like it's Caradhran Overlords fighting a dragon. So that sounds cool. After that one comes the Auction of Blood, which is again by Josh Reynolds. This is probably my favorite one out of all the shorts in this series because it's evocative of classic Warhammer in a different way than just the witch hunters are. Basically, this agent, this bookseller, I think he is, goes to this back alley auction, this like black market auction, planning to buy something for his allies, and I'm pretty sure he's employed by Tzeentch. But then, you know, while he's there and everyone's bidding, and it's this big like chain whip thing, some Khornate cultists get up and they're like, "That's mine!" And then they go and they start murdering everybody as Khornate cultists do. And it primes you up for another story, which is called Eight Lamentations, Spear of Shadows. I'm pretty sure the people that are introduced in this book are like the main characters of that book. I'm not entirely sure, but I think. I like the Eight Lamentations. I wish they would just do that and get that series done. Because the Eight Lamentations are 8 things, 8 weapons. I don't know if it's all weapons, but things essentially that were created by Khorne for Khorne that he gives out to his favorite followers. I think Korgus Kull has an axe that's like that, or that is one of the Lamentations, which he is a big guy in the original Realm Gate series, which I'll be doing another video on eventually. I'm almost done with the first series collection books. So I read this. I read a bunch of little itty bitty things here and there that I got off the internet. I don't know how to say that. And one of my friends sent it to me, actually. And now I'm reading through the Realm Gate Wars. But yeah, I wish they would do the Eight Lamentations. There's a couple like hints here and there about them, but I don't think they go into too much detail about it. I think they'd be a really cool story around it. But yeah. After Auction of Blood comes The Sands of Grief, The Sands of Grief by Guy Haley. This follows the story of an elf prince who is a guy from the Shadespire, which I think is Underworld. So I think that's all the same thing. Shadespire is the city of Underworld. And there is an audio book. I don't know the title. There's an audio book centered around him and him going into Shadespire and trying to get the cure for death, which is, obviously, like, why does he need to cure death? Long story short, his lover, wife, whatever, died, and now he's trying to get her back. And this story is really cool because you get to see Glimmer's Forge, I think it's called, which is the city of Shadespire, but like the city outside of Shadespire, I guess. And it just shows like this city of normal humans and people in the realm of death, which is kind of like a mind. I don't know what the nice word for that is, but it blows your mind a little bit because like, how are they in the realm of death? They're not dead, and it shows like how they actually believe wander around randomly. There's just skeleton armies traipsing across the deserts. So it's cool. I like it. I like the scenery. I'm not too big on the prince, but I like it's pretty typical. It's pretty typical elf prince in that he beats everybody that goes against him, and he's so smart and he's so great. And then he's got this little familiar that he's trying to be, to goodify, and this familiar is still doing bad things because, of course, he is. So it's pretty typical fantasy formula, but I like this setting. After that one comes The Witch Takers by C.L. Werner. So there's this couple, and they're witch takers or witch hunters. I don't know if there's a difference, but that's what the book is called, so that's what I'm calling them. So it starts off, and they are at this tomb that was breached, and they're looking for an artifact that was in the tomb, and it's not there, and there's a bunch of dead tomb robbers around it. So they're like, what in the world happened? Long story short, it turns out the artifact was similar to a lamentation, to one of the Lamentations, but it possessed the person who stole it, and then he killed all his friends, and then he wanders across the desert, and he ends up finding somebody else, kills a whole bunch of people again, and then somebody else picks up the sword and continues on. And these guys hunt down the sword and find it, and then they purify it to a degree. I don't know how purified it gets, but they say it's purified. Now, this is another book that leads you that primes you for another book. And the larger book is called The Tainted Heart. And again, it's the same duo the same couple, literally, of witch takers, and they're probably, I mean, from what the blurb says, they're doing the same type of thing where they're going after another thing. I think they actually end up going after a lamentation this time, but I could be wrong. After that book comes The Prisoner of the Black Sun by Josh Reynolds. I don't like this book. I don't like this book because this is I want to say the first one that's part of the larger Realm Gate series, so it's kind of like a cop-out in my opinion. And it also brings back Manfred von Karstein, who I don't like and wish he had kept away from Age of Sigmar. Bring me back Gotrek, Felix, and a couple other, what's his name? The big orc. I don't remember. Bring me back the big orc guy. I liked him. And I know people are going to say that the Gordrak is supposed to be like the epitome of him, or not the epitome, the reincarnation of him, but screw you, I want my big boy back. He's the only one that punched Arcan in the head with his head, because he's an orc. An orc's orc. So anyway, Prisoner of the Black Sun, it follows, again, it's set in the Realm Gate Wars, and apparently it's in the book, so I'm going to end up reading it twice, I guess. Follows Tarsus Bullheart and his Stormhost. He's the only Stormcast I like. I've read about Vandus Hammerhand. I read about a couple other people, like in random stories, and I read all about the Hollow. Is it the Hollow Knights? I think it's the Hollow Knights. You know, Gardas and Grimm and Morbus, Plague Garden, which is solid, good book. I'll get into it eventually in a different video, but I'm tired of it because nothing bad ever happens to these guys. Like literally in the book, Morbus. They're in one book. I think it's actually the Realm Gate series. Morbus dies and then immediately comes back and is like, death holds nothing against me. And I'm just like, yeah, cool, dude. I get it. You're a Stormcast. You never die. And then you're also death magic because you're the Relictor. But come on now. Couldn't we have like a little bit of time where you guys aren't just all there all the time, constantly? Morbus is a big Deus Ex Machina for those guys. He is constantly fixing everything and making stuff happen and losing and dying and then coming back, or like he's almost dead and then bang, he's super powerful and he goes Super Saiyan. Nah. Which one was on the edge? So I guess he's the Mortarch of Night, Manfred. So if you like the Mortarchs, if you like Nagash, go ahead. Apparently there's a whole story in the Realm Gate series about these guys, but the only reason I care is because of the next book, which is about... I will say, I am excited that Manfred's back because he is one of my favorite people to hate. I don't want him back, and if I had to choose, I would not have chosen him to come back. Give me back Cetra. He's cool. I like Tomb Kings. But he's nice because I hate him and like to hate him, and I find it easy to hate him. So no matter what he does, I'm going to end up hating him, and I just want to feel justified in that. So it's a good feeling for me. Anyway, so the next book is Great Red. And it's a little weird because it jumps forward in time. Because Prisoner of the Black Sun is about Tarsus Bullheart and his Stormhost and how they befriend Manfred. And then immediately Great Red starts out with Tarsus gone / dead, as he is. And Lord Relictor Ramus is now in charge of the Stormhost. And he's just super mad at not Nagash, Manfred. And you're like, wait a minute. I missed something. Hang on, back up. And the book's like, nah, bud, keep going. And the reason I like this book is because it's got the Ironjawz in it, and I mentioned Ironjawz is one of my first armies. So, and they're probably my favorite, so I like it. I mean, it's a pretty typical Stormcast book in and of itself, in that, no matter who they go up against, they still win. But I liked the Ironjawz. I like how they're shown, and I like that they're shown as not just crazy orcs that want to kill stuff, and that the Great Red himself, who's like the war boss, is not just gonna, try to fruitlessly kill these guys. And I think they end up allying together towards the end. That one is a primer, and again, it leads you into more Realm Gate series, which is called The Fury of Gork. Maybe that was Mork? Whatever. Anyway, I'm excited to see more of my boys in yellow because they're the best. Yay orcs. Or rocks, I should say. So after Great Red, the best book in the world, is Wrathspring by Gav Thorpe. Again, pretty much once Prisoner of the Black Sun happens, the rest of these are either in Realm Gate Wars or they're like really pre-sequel stuff that's like just, hey guys, we're doing Age of Sigmar now. Here's a book. They didn't really know what they were doing. So, with these guys, with these couple books, but they're still fine. So Wrathspring, it follows Alarielle's return, which if you read the Realm Gate series, she sacrifices herself to create a new aspect for herself into this war persona, and you follow Gardas and Grimm and all them, which it's so weird because Gardas like isn't around. He's such a big thing because I think his name's Gardas Steelheart or something like that. Or Gardas, whatever. And his Stormhost has that name as well. So it's like, you're the integral part of the Stormhost. You're their leader. They love you, but you're in none of their books. Like, if you read Plague Garden, that's the only one that he's actually in for a decent amount of time. So this follows Alarielle's return and her bringing back the Sylvaneth altogether. And it goes, and she saves these Sylvaneth that were almost dead, and they were about to lose to Nurgle, and she shows up, and they're mad at her, and they're kind of like bad Sylvaneth, but they're still good, better than Chaos. So I think that's cool. If I ever do Sylvaneth, I'd probably focus them on that group because I like that idea of weird Sylvaneth. Crap all over my shirt. I didn't realize that. That's awkward. It's cool. Like I say, I had this all written down like on my computer, but before it is weird because, like I said, after each book, oh, I just got water all over it. How did I do that? Sorry, give me a second. Anyway, after each book, they do like a little what to read next blurb. So here you can see your next read, and then it's got Nagash, the Undying King. And I think this is after the Manfred book, The Prisoner of the Black Sun. So this one it directs you towards Wardens of the Everqueen, which is the book where Grimm leads the Stormhost, the Hollowed Knights, with Alarielle, and then Alarielle sacrifices herself, and then they fight Torglug the Despised, his army, his little group. And I haven't. That's actually the book I'm on as I do this video, but I know what happens because But again, I feel like they kind of it's weird because it leads you to that book, but this book is about her after she comes back from that book, so it's odd. But again, I feel like they kind of lost ideas towards the last like 3 or 4 of these, so it's like, meh, whatever. It's fine. It's a good primer. It gives you an idea of where everybody sits. The last book is the Volturung Road. I like this book, but I also don't like this book. And that doesn't make sense, but I will clarify it. This one follows a Fireslayer Lodge. It's cool because they fight a couple different things, mostly Skaven, I think. I think it's Skaven. And it's pretty typical dwarf stuff. Stubbornness, tradition, not listening to younger people because stubbornness and tradition. So it's interesting. I don't really like it because at one point they basically become homeless and then they go to get help, and all the other Fireslayer Lodges are like, yeah, screw you guys. If you didn't want to lose your home, you should have not lost your home. And I'm like, but okay, whatever, fine, whatever, fine, whatever, fine. Because I want to like the Fireslayers, but they kind of come off as jerks, I guess, is the only PC way to say it. I feel like it gets a little forced towards the middle because they're like, oh, don't worry, we can hold out for months. And then they don't. They hold out for like a day. And you're like, oh, well, all right, I guess to continue the story or move the story along, I guess. And it is like one of the first books they wrote, I believe, which is in the Legends of the Age of Sigmar. Legends of the Age of Sigmar. So again, it's kind of just a book they threw together as like, here's the book, Age of Sigmar style, da-da. So it shows its age. It shows its age. After that, there is a little excerpt from Black Talon, the first mark. I'm not going to go into that one because I didn't even really read it. I didn't read Black Talon, so I don't really want to go into it, so I'm not going to. But I think, personally, if you're new to this hobby or new to Age of Sigmar, this is a good place to start. It does well. It does what it says. It's a good starting area. Start here is a good idea. I'm going to say that a million times, I guess. If you start with Realm Gate, which is the start of the books and the start of Age of Sigmar, you get burned out really quickly because it's Stormcast, 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 Stormcast. Oh, look, something else. Stormcast, Stormcast, Stormcast. Which is fine if you like Stormcast, but I don't like Stormcast, so trying to trudge through this book is exactly that. It's a trudge. It's drudgery. It's boring a little bit because these guys are never in trouble. The only time I was really interested in Gardas' story because I read some other primer where he fights or he gets lost in the realm of Nurgle, and I was excited for that. I was like, oh yeah, man, that's cool. Like, you know, finally there's a Stormcast getting killed and not coming back. That's exciting. How is that going to play out? So that's the reason I actually got into the Realmgate series, because I wanted to read that story. And so I go and I read it, and Gardas, it's like 3 pages. He's running and he's running and he's running and he's running, and Bolathrax is chasing him, and then poof, he's out of there. And then he's dead like 3 chapters later, and you're just like, oh, so Grimm's still in charge then? Cool. Gardas still isn't back yet? Cool, I guess. And then it continues on, and you know, I read Plague Garden, which is the reverse of what I just said, where Grimm, who was the second in command, Lord Castellan, I don't know how to say that right, is now stuck in the Plague Garden, and that's, you know, the titular thing. So then you get to see Gardas do stuff. He exists and does stuff, and it's interesting because it showcases a little bit of the normal humans that have been captured by them. I'm not going to go too much into Plague Garden because it is its own book, and I want to do a review on it its own, because 2 Plus Tough is not doing it because he decided not to read it. That sounded mean. He's not doing it because he didn't have time, because he's been very busy with other things. And Kenzie, who is doing it with him, also did not have time because she's moving to college and all that stuff. So no hard feelings there at all. I'm happy I read the book. No hard feelings. I just want to make that clear. But he's not doing it, so I want to do it myself. And I think book reviews would be good because I love to read, and I love the lore, and I love getting into it. And I think it'd be fun to have people to talk to about it. So again, as a whole, Sacrosanct's a good starting point. Good starting point. If you just go into Realmgate, you're gonna burn yourself out. I would say pick up the Realmgate series, but also pick up a couple books of whatever army or armies or factions that you like, because that way you can kind of like take a point and dip out from Stormcast. Like, maybe get some of the Gash books or the Death books. Get 1 or 2 of anything else. Literally anything else. Some of the Witch Takers book would be good because, like, yeah, they're still Sigmar, they're still good, but they're not Stormcast. City of Secrets, good one. Still has Stormcast in it. Still integral to the plot, but it's way different. Callus and Toll. Shiprats and the Overlords of the Iron Dragon. I'm sure that's way different. I would say pick up a couple of those. Pick up, the OG Stormcast book, the OG Realmgate Wars book, which is going to have all your series stories in it. It actually, I think it has. It has Pantheon in it. I've read Pantheon. That's okay. But this one, this is where you start the books. This is the actual start, the start of Realmgate Wars, and I mean the actual start of Age of Sigmar. Like, it starts up with the Gates of Azir, I do believe. Yeah. And the Gates of Azir is the first time Vandus Hammerhand comes down and they fight, and this is the first incursion by the Stormcasts to the mortal realms. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Grab Sacrosanct if you need a place to start and want to see more of the world and get some ideas of where to go. get Sacrosanct if you've read a bunch of Stormcast and you're tired of it and you want to see other stuff, because that will let you get little like primers into other factions and see what you'd like to read. And get Sacrosanct if you just want a quick $8 book that is good. It's a pretty solid read. All the books in it are pretty good, I think. I'm not going to go, consider it, since this is the first review I've done, I'm not going to go into a lot of like characterization and grammar and writing styles and stuff like that. I don't read for that, for the most part. I've read probably thousands of books. I don't actually know, but I know it's a lot. Hundreds at least. Maybe 1,000 books. And I've only actually never finished like 2. And even if I don't finish them, if it's a series, which usually that's all I read because I'm a huge prolific reader, even if I don't finish them, I still give them a shot. Like if there's 5 books in a series, I'll read 3 of them before I go, all right, that's enough. I'm done. Can't do it anymore. That being said, again, I'm not going into characterization, not going into prose and styles and grammars and all this other crap. I don't really care about that stuff. I want to read a book and get lost in it. If the story's good, the characters make sense, and it all wraps up neatly, not necessarily happily. I'm okay with bad story or sad stories and bad stuff happening, but neatly, as in there's no plot holes for the most part. And if there are plot holes, stuff I can ignore, like what he said he didn't have his hammer, but now he does. Who cares? It's fine. Calm down. He went and picked it up. He didn't need to explain that to you. So yeah, that's the plan. That's how I'm going to go forward. Most of the other videos probably aren't going to be this long because, like I said, this is 12 stories. It's going to be weird because I'm going to do like the Gotrek Realm Slayer, I think it's called. I'm going to do his audiobook, but I don't like have it to talk about or reread because I listened to it on Audible. But yeah, so that's it. That's my first book review. Let me know in the comments or with private messages or on my blog or wherever how I did or what you think I should do better, or if you want me to expand on anything or talk about certain things. If you have any books you want me to read or books you have read that you want me to talk about, let me know and I'll do it. That's it. Have a good one, guys.